12 and 13 have been combined because they simply create, or these two lessons work together to create a project where you explore digital dilemmas. Your final project will be done in a Google Doc, and it actually is an assignment that comes after this lesson. So, first off, this unit, all of Unit 1, we have considered how our analog world can be represented digitally. In this lesson, we're going to continue to consider the impact of digitizing our world. Does digitizing our world make it better or worse? What's your opinion? Is our world better or worse because of digital representation? Do you think we're better off because we represent so many things digitally? Or are we worse off? Or are you someplace in between? Pick a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and write it down in your notebook. And jot down just a short reason why you feel that way. In class, we'll be sharing these out. Now, we're going to think more about this question together, and you're going to have a chance, once we've done some more digging, to update your answer, if you like. Our activity is going to begin. Last class, you stated an opinion on a copyright issue based on reading an article. Today, you will get to choose an article to read and respond to, focusing on the digital dilemma. And actually, you may not get to choose. I'm going to choose because I want to have it evenly split up. But we're going to look at, is our world better or worse? Okay, digital dilemmas, part 1. You should now go to code.org, Unit 1, Lesson 12, Level 1. Again, Unit 1, Lesson 12, Level 1. You will see these 3 articles. I'm going to put you in a group, and I want you to select the article to read based on the group into which I have placed you. The articles are all similar in length and such. It's just this way not everybody has to read all 3, and yet when you discuss them, you'll hear a little bit about each, okay? Now, since this is just online, or not online, this is just a video, I'm going to write down here, I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to put up if your last name begins with which article you take. Okay, so now, if you're watching this video, if your last, instead of attending class, if your last name begins with an A through H, select Article 1, The Ethics of Computer-Generated Actors. If your last name begins with letters I through P, then select number 2, DNA testing kits and the security risks in digitized DNA. And then if your last name begins with a Q through Z, select Article 3, Athletes Don't Own Their Tattoos. Okay, so pause the video while you bring up a separate tab, and you can go and access one of these 3 articles. Once you've got that article, come back and continue. Okay, now what I want you to do is highlight or underline in any way that you want. You can do it online, you can jot down notes, you can, whatever it is, you want to note any information in the article that you want to know more about. So again, you can jot down references, whatever. If you print it out, great, highlight, underline it. If you don't print it out, then however you want to mark it, online or in your notebook. At the end, when you finish reading the article, you should write a 10-word, again, remember it's 10-word summary of the article. You will have 10 minutes. I'm trying to give you these time limits so that you don't overthink things, overwork things. Obviously, if you need 1 or 2 more minutes, that's fine, but you should not be taking 30 and 40 minutes on this. This should be about 10 minutes. So pause the video, go to your article, and begin reading it, noting any information you want to know more about, and writing your 10-word summary. And by the way, if your summary is 8 words or 12 words, that's fine. This is basically just telling you to write a decent sentence summary. Go ahead and begin. Okay, you're done with that. Fantastic. What I want you to do, if you were in class, would be to share your 10-word summary with your group, and together look up as many unfamiliar words or concepts as necessary. So if there's something you don't know, look it up. At this time, because you don't have a group, I do want you to go back to your article and look up any of the unfamiliar words or any of the unfamiliar concepts. So if there's something that, if there's a term that you don't know, just Google it, look it up. Digital divide, what is that referring to? Net neutrality, what is that referring to? Those are things that we will look at later, but again, things like that, if you don't know a word or concept, pause the video now, scan through your article, and look those items up. Take about 5 minutes at most to do this. And you're back. Continuing on, I'd like for you to think, is our world better or worse because of digital representation? Think about that for a minute. Pause the video for a moment and just jot down your thoughts in your notebook. Write down, is our world, or you can put our world is better or our world is worse because of digital representation. Because, what do you think? And maybe you think it's a little bit of both. That's okay too. Pause the video and jot your notes down. Okay, and I'm asking you, by the way, to jot down your notes because at the end, when you put it all together into your project, all those notes will be helpful. Now, what I'd like for you to do is to reread the article in order to answer the questions. What was digitized? You need to write down what was digitized. What was the goal or purpose of digitizing this thing? Is someone benefiting from the situation? If so, who? Is someone being harmed in this situation? If so, who? And there might be somebody who benefits and somebody who's harmed. Okay? Are these impacts intended or unintended? And how do you know that they're intended or unintended? Okay? So you want to be able to answer all of those questions. You also want to add a plus next to sentences that show benefit, a minus next to sentences that show harm. Add a face next to sentences that show impact. Leave comments in the margin and text of the article addressing the questions to the left. So anything that you want, put these notes in there. And again, if you print it off, great, you can do this all on your printout. If it's hard copy, or sorry, if it's online, you may have to just make some notes in your notebook itself. So if you're making notes in your notebook, it might take you a little bit more than 10 minutes, but take about 10 minutes to answer these questions and make some notations here. I also want you to check, I'm going to put you back in your groups because I want you to share some of the sentences you annotated. And look at, did you all select similar areas? So at the end of 10 minutes, I'm going to ask you to go back to your groups and share. And I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to do the sharing. Watching this video, you're simply going to answer these questions and annotate. Take about 10 minutes at this time. You're back. Hopefully you managed to get answers for all of these questions, and you've got some annotations in your article. Now, your position poster. It's really not a poster, it's just a piece of paper. On a piece of paper, separate blank piece of paper, I want you to divide it into 4 quadrants. Okay? You can just draw a line. You can fold it in half and in half again, however you want to create your 4 quadrants. And then, in quadrant 1, I want you to write down what is being digitized and how is the information represented digitally. This is only like 2, maybe 3 sentences. This is not supposed to be a lot. Just state what is being digitized and how is it being represented digitally. In the second quadrant, what is the goal or purpose of digitizing this thing? Is it for entertainment? Is it so that somebody can read it, put in input? Is it to provide information? Why is it being digitized? For number 3, what are the benefits and harms of digitizing this content? When you said who benefited and who was harmed, that's where this comes in. What are the benefits? What are the harmful effects? okay, of digitizing this content. And then for number 4, is our world better or worse because of digital representation? And this is in general. And you should be drawing your conclusion based on what we've done so far and in these articles. I want you to explain in number 4 your opinion. Our world is better or worse. Pick one or the other, or you could be somewhere in between, and explain why, giving examples. So if you think it's both better and worse, you need to give an example for better and an example for worse. Notice, this paper is broken up into 4 places. This is one quadrant. This should not take a ton of writing. This is, our world is better because, and give a reason with the explanation, or with the with the example, or it's worse. Take about 10 minutes, maybe 12, to take care of all of this. Okay? So pause the video and make your poster. Have you finished making your poster? Great. Then what I want you to do is, do you think there's always both a benefit and a harm to digitizing analog content? Is there always a benefit and a bad thing that happens, or a bad effect in class, either in person or virtually? I'd be asking for people to share out what they think. There is not, okay, remember, this is do you think. There's not a right or a wrong answer. But what I want you to do is justify your answer. And we are going to respect each other's justifications. All right, now we're going to group up, and you're going to join a group with others who read different articles. Obviously, watching this video, that's not possible. But this is what we did in class so that people could experience the other 2 articles. If you're just watching the video, what I would suggest is that in this 10 minutes, instead of grouping up and sharing your position paper and discussing the article, just go and look at the other 2 articles that you did not read. You don't have to write anything about them, but just scan through them, do a quick read, and kind of in the back of your mind, think about what was digitized, what was good, what was bad about it. Okay? So again, in the class, we're going to group up so that everybody can sort of share out. If you're doing this on your own, simply go and look over the other 2 articles so you know what there was. Finally, digital dilemma. Now, where do you stand? Is our world better or worse because of digital representation? Think about it. Be prepared to justify your stance with examples. The next digital dilemma debate, where does our class stand? So in class, we'll be looking at, based on all of our responses, where does the class stand? Are we closer to better, worse, or are we someplace in between? Does it depend on what you're digitizing? Now, as a wrap-up, why should we care about information being represented digitally? And how does it impact you personally? We care about it digitally because once something's in the digital format, it's out there for everybody. It's very hard to ever get rid of it. It can impact you personally. The potential for somebody to take something you created and claim it as their own, or to profit from something that you might feel belongs to you or was one of your creations. Or maybe you inadvertently take somebody else's idea and profit from it. Lots of reasons why we might want to care. Now, what I'd like for you to do is, using your notes and the position paper you created during this video, during this class, I want you to complete the assignment after this lesson. In the assignment, there's a Google Doc that is split into the 4 sections. And what you're going to do is you are simply going to type up your responses. So if you've already done your position paper, you are simply taking what you've already done and putting it into that Google Doc and submitting it as an assessment. After that, between now and next class, you should be reviewing your notes, the videos in this course, and the vocabulary from the unit in preparation for your Unit 1 summative.